Happy New Year to all of you. Let's get some cross stitching done today. Did you all start a new project for the new year? I have not. Nope. Just bringing in some of the old things into the new year. Yep, keeping up with those. But I'll get more to my goals a little later. Do you have any goals set for your crafting? Is that something you do? Okay. Well, before I get into all that, let me tell you first about my day. It is early in the morning. It's about 8 a.m. here in Colorado. Current weather is 18 degrees Fahrenheit, -8 for my Celsius friends. The forecast warm up to 36 degrees Fahrenheit, 2 degrees Celsius. It's sunny though, and we do have some snow on the ground, but the way our home is situated here, what we have might all melt today. Yeah, I'm at just over 5,000 feet or 1,524 meters in elevation. So when the sun comes out, the snow melts. Also, here we did not get that much snow. I think the last time there was a snowstorm, other areas of the state were hit with more snow than we were here. So also, I am drinking both a cup of cold water to keep me hydrated, and I also have a nice hot cup of some Nescafe Classico Brazil instant coffee mixed with Swiss Miss milk chocolate mix. It's good. It's good. It suffices. It warms me up. So that's what we're going with today. Okay, let's get to today's cross stitch project. So today I am working on Farewell to Anger by Leonid Afremov. My apologies, I probably just messed up that name, but it is charted by heavenandearthdesigns. I'm stitching it on 18 count Aida with 2 strands of DMC floss, and this pattern has a total of 88 colors in the design. This is a full coverage cross stitch design. Whoa. Say that again, full coverage cross stitch design. The stitch count is 468 stitches wide by 309 stitches high in height. Not high, in height. So that's a total of just over 144,000 stitches. The finished piece on this 18 count will be 26 inches wide by 17 1/8. I am currently at 2% for this project. Now, my goal for this project is a finish by the end of the year. So I have a Google Sheet where I put in all of my cross-stitch projects, and I have it set up so the Google Sheet automatically calculates how many stitches I have left. I can also calculate how many stitches I need to stitch per day or per week to finish by a certain day. So for this project, I have calculated that I need to stitch 2,700 stitches per week to have a finish by the end of 2023. Is that doable? Is that doable is the question. My answer right now, on the 4th of January, is that yes, it definitely is doable. So speaking of goals, though, I just want to say this weekend I am going to have a video where I discuss all of my cross-stitch goals for 2023. I will also show you what I'm using to track my goals. I track my goals in both, on both digital and paper. I'm a paper planner at heart, but I always love playing around with Google Sheets, figuring out some automatic calculations with that. So if you're interested in that type of thing, like setting goals or how I keep track of goals, go ahead and subscribe to my channel so there's a better chance YouTube will show you that video when it goes live. Okay, so back to this project. 2,700 stitches per week. Now here's the thing. In the past, sometimes I easily hit this number, but other times I did it. The difference for me is how easy it is for me to work on the project. So right now, as I record this, I am stitching in my basement on a stand. But my preferred method of everyday cross-stitching is sitting on my comfy couch under a pile of blankets and stitching in hand. So if I keep this project right by my couch, it will be closer at hand and there's a better chance that I will grab it and work on it when I'm sitting down. But if I keep it in this hoop down in my basement, I'm only going to work on this when I'm down here recording, and that's not going to be frequent enough for me to reach that goal. I should also mention here that I do not speed stitch. So first of all, I cross stitch as a hobby. I almost never gift stitch. My stitching is almost always for myself. So right there, no reason to rush. Second, stitching is like meditation for me. I enjoy the process. I enjoy seeing the design unfold. I enjoy the simple motion of the needle stitching through the fabric. I enjoy the feel of the fabric in my hands. Sometimes I enjoy running, feeling the completed stitches, especially the back of it. But most importantly, I don't do any sort of speed stitching because of my body. If I get too overly aggressive with my hobbies, so I cross stitch, I knit, I crochet, if I get too aggressive with those, my body decides to yell at me. There will be inflammation. There will be pain. And my work, my business that I do, it involves me typing and writing for hours on end. So anything that irritates my hands, my arms, my shoulders, that becomes a whole chain reaction of issues. Now, in the past, I haven't always been as thoughtful to this, but now I do pay attention to what I'm doing and how my body is feeling. So speed stitching is not a thing I even attempt to do. Now, with that said, I do sometimes see how efficiently I can stitch. So, for example, when I sit down, I try to get stitching done versus me putting it down to watch TV or checking on my phone. Now, I know one way that my brain does this best, focusing on my stitching, is by setting some random competition with myself about trying to see how many stitches I can get done in a small period of time. So I'm never rushing to get my stitching itself done. I just find ways to get myself to focus on the stitching. So if I spend time stitching versus on my phone looking at social media or going down some random rabbit hole news articles, if I spend that time instead stitching, I will consider that a better use of my time because I have some, complete stitching to show for it. So anyways, how I'm stitching on this project. So one of the things I'm doing in this new year is I am breaking down my projects into different methods of stitching. So now just picture that I said methods in quotes because I'm not even sure that method is the right term for it. But for example, this project is being stitched on the diagonal. Now I started this on the diagonal because I've heard on the socials about people experiencing lines in their stitching. So if people stitch it in columns, they would notice that they had some type of line where like one column ended and a new column would begin. Personally, I've never experienced this, probably because I haven't completed enough stitching to even notice this. But when I was starting this full coverage piece, and Farewell to Anger, this is one of the first full coverage pieces I started, I wanted to try to avoid lines. So I wanted to learn from other people's experiences. Now, I had heard a couple reasons why people said you might get lines. One of those reasons is that there could have been an issue with tension. So, for example, if you stitch the last stitch in a column, and then you bring your thread down and to the left to stitch more down that same column, then you might be pulling tight enough after doing this. And then after you complete a column, there could be a noticeable gap between the last stitch of a column and the first stitch of the new column. So tension might be one of the causes. I don't know what other reasonings there could be. There were some other things people had mentioned, but with that in mind, I decided to combat the possibility of a line or a gap caused by tension, of constantly stitching, in just like, let's say a 10 stitch column. One of the ideas was to stitch on a diagonal. So by doing a diagonal, the last stitch of any row is always changing, right? So you're not just going straight down. And so you would not end up with any sort of stark line. Now, so that's why I started stitching this on the diagonal. I chose to do 10 stitch diagonals. Just 10 was just the number I chose. I think I would have also been comfortable doing a 20 stitch diagonal too, but I just went with 10. So I'm also parking. So what that means is that when I start a diagonal, let's say there's no parked threads, I would start at the top left, choose that color. I would then stitch anywhere that color shows up in the diagonal, staying in the diagonal. And then if I had a lot of thread left and I'm done with all of the occurrences in the diagonal, then I will go ahead and park it in the next 10 stitch diagonal over. So I'll try to park it as high up as I reasonably can, but sometimes, I'll just park it nearby. So then if I'm starting a new diagonal and there are parked threads, I will start from the bottom and work in just those parked threads first. And then once all of those are worked in, I'll be at the top and I will fill in colors. So also, I'm going to be posting a video in the future where I show you how I start working on a diagonal with parked threads. So in that video, I'll explain it more if this was at all confusing, which it very well might have been. And I just want to mention my reason for parking. So to start off, I think there are a couple different ways people use their thread up as they work with cross stitching. One way is to do it kind of cross country. What that means is you start with the color and you stitch everywhere you see that color occurring nearby until you finish that thread. Or if there's nothing nearby, then you just cut it and call it good. Another way is parking. So with parking, you start a thread and work it in a specified area. And then you park it or put it on hold in a future hole instead of working it. Now for me, that specified area in this project is a 10 stitch diagonal. So if there's an occurrence outside that 10 stitch diagonal, then the thread is getting parked. And I keep track of where I park my threads using the app Pattern Keeper. I can also keep track of it on a paper pattern, using some different highlighters or color pencils that I use. So parking just really works for me because I don't have to worry as much about whether my count is off. And I think that's maybe the last piece I'll just talk about real quickly is find what works for you. So as I mentioned earlier, for 2023, I'm going to have each project focus on a different method to stitch. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to experience for myself what it's like to stitch those different ways, and maybe find if there's another method that I prefer. I'm the type of person who I will see people mention things, and then I have to try it for myself to form my own opinion. In this situation, figuring out a method of cross-stitching I prefer, it doesn't cost me anything extra. It's not a serious situation. I love learning new things, new tricks of the trade, and I'll try it out for myself. Maybe I'll tweak it along the way. I'll get to a point where I can draw my own conclusions about what works or doesn't work for me. So I just want to encourage you to do the same. As I stitch and share my videos with all of you, I hope maybe you'll learn something new, maybe a new technique, new method. Then if you're interested, try it for yourself. Make changes along the way and see if you find something new you like. I'd love it if you'd come back to this video or any video. Let me know what you're doing. Maybe share what you've tried, even ways you've tweaked things that I'm doing or how you do it differently. I learned so much from the online cross-stitch community. In fact, I've learned everything I know about cross-stitch from the online community. So I hope to always continue to learn new things, try new things. Okay, friends, have a wonderful day today. Be kind to yourself. See you next time.